as a nation based on an ideal democratic creed, as eloquently laid out in the Declaration of Independence, the United States should have a constant goal of improving the ways in which citizens express their consent to those who govern them. In the chapters that follow, I hope to inform the listener about the American system and to stimulate thought and discussion about ways to improve it. Reform is not easy. Were it easy to right the problems with the American system, someone would have done so long ago. Consequences of reform efforts are notoriously difficult to predict. Passage of reform proposals are always difficult because of those with vested interests in the status quo. But anticipated difficulty does not mean that effort is not worthwhile. That is what striving for an ideal is all about. As Woodrow Wilson, a noted reformer himself, said, "Some people call me an idealist. Well, that is the only way I know to be an American. America is the only idealistic nation in the world." Chapter 1. The Context of American Elections and Political Parties. Americans are proud, justifiably proud, given its longevity, of their democratic electoral system. Yet, truth be told, few Americans, and even fewer observers from other nations, understand the American electoral process. Most citizens of democratic regimes evaluate other democracies according to the standards set by their own. But representative democracies come in many varieties. What is common across democratic systems is that citizens vote to choose those who are to govern them. In some cases, they choose executives, legislators, and judges. In others, only some of these. In some nations, voters choose national, regional, and local office holders. In others, only some of those. What is critical is that citizens can evaluate the performance of those who make decisions that most directly affect their lives. The world's democracies are judged to be more or less effective based on a number of factors. Is the process open? Do those out of power have a chance to contest for office successfully? In Canada, party control of government has switched with some frequency. In the old Soviet Union, such power shifting was unimaginable. Do citizens participate easily and freely in the political process? In Denmark and Germany, turnout in typical elections for the legislature averages nearly 90%. In Poland and Switzerland, closer to 50%, and in recent U.S. elections, around 33% have voted in midterm elections and about 50% in presidential. To how much information do citizens have access before they reach their decisions of voting? How free are candidates and parties to express their views on the issues of the day? Democratic regimes span a wide spectrum in terms of how freely those in power can be criticized, by the press or by the opposition, on such issues as the openness of the process, the ability of those out of power to contest for office successfully, the level of participation among the citizenry, the amount of information to which citizens have access in reaching their judgments, and the freedom that candidates have to express their views and that citizens have to vote. By all of those standards, the democracy in the United States scores quite high. In terms of citizen rights and procedures, American democracy is exemplary, but a higher standard is needed. Voters and candidates must be able to take advantage of these procedures and thus exercise their rights in a way that impacts governmental policy to conform with citizens' expressed preferences. In this book, we examine the ways in which the electoral institutions in the United States facilitate, often through voting, the granting of the consent of the governed to those who govern. We also look at when this process of generating citizen support, and thus that consent for government policy, breaks down. Many citizens who care passionately about policy, about the issues of war and peace, economic prosperity, care for the poor, the ill, and the elderly, equal treatment without regard to religion, race, gender, sexual orientation, physical handicap, protection of the environment, and so many others, are bored by the mechanics of the electoral process.